Starting last year, there have been a string of court decisions striking down partisan gerrymanders, with judges in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Maryland, and North Carolina ruling that legislative districts were illegally drawn to benefit a political party, more often than not, Republicans. And now a federal court in Michigan has ruled that the political maps were illegally rigged by Republicans to, quote, historical proportions, and ordered new maps and special early elections. This is a big deal. Last year, Michigan voters overwhelmingly approved an anti-gerrymandering ballot initiative, which began with Michigan resident Katie Fahey, who is featured in a new documentary on gerrymandering called Slay the Dragon. Joining me now to talk about this, Katie Fahey, founder of Voters Not Politicians. Also with me is Barrick Goodman, co-director of the new documentary, Slay the Dragon. Welcome to both of you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
What's the dragon?
It's the gerrymander. It is this thing that we've had since the founding of America, which basically rigs elections 10 years at a time based on one political party or the other having more control.
And in the beginning, one of these things was shaped like a salamander, which got the name gerrymandering. But the point is, Barrick, this has been with us for a long time. What's different now?
What's different is that one political party figured out how to weaponize this old political dirty trick and make it a national strategy. And that happened in 2011, right after the 2010 census. So they figured out that if they won a bunch of state legislatures all around the country, they would control the redistricting process and they could gerrymander those states so that they could basically cheat their way back into power and hold on to power for a decade until the next redistricting. So
Katie, how do you couldn't have even been in, you were a kid in school at the time. How are you involved in this?
Yeah, so I remember learning about gerrymandering in elementary school, actually, and asking my teacher, if we know that it's broken, why don't we fix it? Where I got it's always been this way.
Right.
And it really bothered me. And after the 2016 election, Michigan behaved in a really interesting way. In the primaries, a lot of voters, actually Bernie Sanders won, and then Donald Trump won in the general. And when I was going to Thanksgiving dinner, I was really nervous. I didn't want to go. My family was very politically divided. But they had started talking about politics, and I thought, what did those two characters have in common? And it really was this message of, like, tear down the system, we've got to restart.
That's
and
right.
I think that's a lot of systemic frustration that voters feel because they realize that when they show up to the ballot, no matter who they vote for, they aren't getting solutions. And I remember that gerrymandering is a part of the reason why, that mathematically we get divided up once every 10 years so that whether we show up at the ballot box or not, our voices really don't matter as much as they should. And we've lost our power to unelect people we don't like and to elect people we do like.
And then you come out, you emerge from Thanksgiving dinner and you realize that this problem is one you should deal with. If people are angry about systems that are broken, this is one of the easiest to comprehend. It's like, look at an electoral map and tell me why that makes sense. So what do you do about it?
Yeah, so I didn't know at first. I made this Facebook post. I wasn't in politics. It got shared a bunch. And then in Michigan, we have the ballot initiative process where if people in Michigan can write constitutional language, gather a ton of signatures, then the populace can vote on it in a general election. And I thought, there's no way that the legislature can interfere, so let's go for direct democracy and see if people want voters choosing their politicians instead of the other way around. And we saw November 6th that 2.5 million people did.
Barrick, what is the solution moving forward? There are going to be a number of these cases, particularly North Carolina, now Michigan, that are going to the Supreme Court. What do regular people who are mad about this do? In Michigan, it did, to Katie's point, it got a lot of people out there to vote. Some argue, Michael Moore has been on with me saying that alone probably got some people who weren't otherwise going to vote to go out to vote because it was an initiative that was important to them. Absolutely. But what does the rest of the country do? Because we all, in all of our states, have gerrymandered districts. Well,
there are a couple of things. I mean, first of all, we cannot rely on the Supreme Court. The betting money is that this Supreme Court will not find with the plaintiffs in these various states, unfortunately, because these cases, to me, are open and shut. But what Katie and her folks in Michigan demonstrated in those states that have ballot referenda is that ordinary citizens can take this on. Through the referendum process, they can basically take the power to redistrict away from legislatures and invest it in citizens groups instead. If a state doesn't have that ability, I would just say voters should vote on this issue. I mean, if you have legislators who are not willing to give up the power to redistrict, it makes no sense for politicians to be drawing their own lines. It's just a conflict of interest on its face. So vote on the issue, elect those politicians who are willing to give up that power, because right now it is a totally corrupt system, and as you point out, it's affecting states all over the country.
But Katie, there are powers behind this. This doesn't just happen, right? Influential people put money into certain elections that they can influence so that they, as you said, they got the people in position to be able to be there to redistrict in their favor. Can this be fought on a citizen level?
Yeah, I think we're proof that it was. You know, it wasn't just me. It was actually thousands of people putting their lives on hold for 2 years to dedicate their time, their energy, their resources to talk about something that feels like it should have been left in civics class.
Yep.
But the reality is that people recognize that politics is not working for the everyday person, especially in Michigan. And it hasn't been for decades, whether the Democrats were gerrymandering or the Republicans. So until we start fixing some of these things, we are going to continue to be unhappy. And the people who suffer are the everyday people. So we had over 4,000 people gathering signatures. We had over 425,000 signatures gathered. You know, we filled the Supreme Court case. We filled the court when we were there and had 300 people outside. This really was connected to voters because it felt like a way we could actually start addressing these issues instead of just talking about them.
There's a piece from the film. I just want to ask my control room if we've got it. There's a short bit of you in the documentary that I think captures what you were thinking and how you got this to catch fire. Let's listen to it.
I think Flint woke people up. Just sitting and watching like these politicians just so blatantly disregard the will of the people. You have these officials who feel untouchable, who feel like they can't get unelected because they've designed and rigged a system to make it that way. I just reached a point where it was like, why aren't we, how can we do something about this? Like, how?
There are a lot of people, Barak, in this country who will watch this film who were the ones who were behind gerrymandering. This is not a random thing.
No, it isn't.
They are going to not like this. And as you said, the Supreme Court, the betting is not that they will rule for the plaintiffs, but they will redouble their efforts to do what they were doing.
Yeah.
Who are people who want to fix this broken system up against?
They're up against entrenched money. They're up against plutocrats who have an enormous power in this country. They're up against incumbent politicians who don't want to face the voters and have a free and fair election. And it's not just Republicans, although Republicans have perfected the art. It's Democrats, too. There's a case in front of the Supreme Court involving a Democratic district. It's really about incumbents not wanting a competitive election. And until that happens, we really don't have a real democracy in this country.
Thank you for making the film. Thank you for doing what so many Americans will find inspiring, getting up and taking action about something that you didn't think was right. Katie Fahey and Barak Goodman, thank you both for being with me tonight.
Thank you.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.